I always thought of myself as a lucky man. I had a successful career, a beautiful home, and a loving wife, Emma. We had been married for 10 years, and I couldn't imagine my life without her. Our bond seemed unbreakable, built on trust and mutual respect. However, one fateful evening, everything changed. It started with a simple, almost innocuous detail. I had come home early from work, hoping to surprise Emma with a romantic dinner. As I walked through the door, I noticed her phone buzzing on the kitchen counter. It was unusual for Emma to leave her phone unattended, and curiosity got the better of me. I glanced at the screen and saw a message from an unknown number. My heart skipped a beat. At first, I thought it might be a misunderstanding, a message meant for someone else. But deep down, I felt a gnawing sense of dread. I unlocked her phone and opened the message thread. What I found confirmed my worst fears, a series of intimate messages and photos exchanged over the past few months. The messages were explicit, describing secret rendezvous in hotels, passionate declarations, and future plans together. Photos of them together in familiar places, a cafe we frequented, a park where we had picnicked, mocked me with their familiarity. The words and images painted a clear picture of their affair. The messages grew more detailed, describing stolen moments of passion. Emma and Mark, entwined in bed, their bodies pressed together. She described the feel of his hands on her skin, the way he kissed her neck, the electric charge she felt with his touch. My stomach churned as I read her words, vividly imagining their encounters. I felt like the ground had been ripped from beneath my feet. How could this be happening? Emma and I had shared everything, or so I thought. I tried to steady my shaking hands as I read through the messages, each one a dagger to my heart. When Emma came home later that evening, her face lit up when she saw the dinner I had prepared. But when she saw my expression, her smile faltered. Her face went pale, and she looked like she was about to faint. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her, but the betrayal was too raw, too fresh. The next few hours were a blur of shouting, tears, and accusations. Emma tried to justify her actions, but nothing she said could mend the shattered trust between us. She spoke of loneliness and feeling neglected, of finding solace in Mark's arms. It felt like a cruel joke. The life we had built, the love we had shared, now seemed like a facade. I felt like a fool, like I had been living a lie. That night I slept on the couch, unable to bear being in the same room as her. The following days were a haze of pain and confusion. I took time off work, needing space to think. Friends and family reached out, but I wasn't ready to talk about it. Eventually, I realized I had a decision to make. I could try to forgive Emma and rebuild our marriage, or I could walk away and start anew. It wasn't an easy choice. The love I had for her was real, but so was the betrayal. In the end, I chose to leave. I couldn't live with the constant doubt and mistrust. It was the hardest decision I've ever made, but I knew it was the right one. I packed my things and moved into a small apartment across town, starting the painful process of healing. Looking back, I realized that betrayal taught me a lot about myself and what I truly value in a relationship. It was a painful lesson, but one that ultimately made me stronger. And as I slowly rebuilt my life, I found hope in the possibility of new beginnings and the strength to trust again. Story 2. A few months ago, I discovered that my partner of 7 years had been living a double life. We have 2 young children, and I've been a stay-at-home parent since our second was born. He's always been charming and attentive, but something changed last winter. We decided to take a break in June, after I found messages on his phone from various women. He swore he'd stop, promised he'd change, but the trust was shattered. I agreed to stay until September so I could find a job and get our finances in order. One evening, as the summer heat wave lingered, we sat on opposite ends of the couch. He tried to hold my hand, his touch warm but foreign. "I love you," he said, his voice soft, eyes pleading. "I haven't seen anyone since we talked." A few weeks later, his mother fell seriously ill. Despite our situation, I cared about his family and wanted to help. I took charge of arranging her care, making countless phone calls, and even staying overnight at the hospital. During this time, he acted like everything was fine between us, telling his family we were working things out. One night, while he was asleep, I noticed his phone buzzing incessantly. Curiosity got the better of me, and I saw messages from a woman named Laura. They weren't just casual chats. These were explicit, filled with details of their encounters and plans to meet again. I felt my stomach churn as I read through the texts. The messages painted a vivid picture of their affair. They had met during one of his supposed business trips last fall. He described how he was drawn to her confidence and wit, how they first kissed under the dim light of a bar in some downtown hotel. He told her he missed the way her lips felt against his, how her body fit perfectly against his. He reminisced about the nights they spent together, the way her skin felt like silk under his fingertips, the scent of her perfume lingering on his clothes long after they parted. There were plans for future rendezvous, each more elaborate and intimate than the last. They fantasized about weekends away, secret getaways where they could be free from the prying eyes of reality. Laura's replies were just as detailed. She mentioned a particular night they spent together at a lakeside cabin. She talked about the warmth of the fire and the softness of the bed, but also how she loved the way he traced patterns on her skin, how his touch sent shivers down her spine. She described the way he kissed her neck, the way he held her close, feeling the rise and fall of her breath. Her messages were filled with longing, impatience for their next meeting, and promises of new adventures. She even talked about how she missed his hands on her body, the way he made her feel alive and desired. I felt my stomach churn as I read through the texts. It had been going on for months, maybe even before our separation. The depth of his deception was staggering. The intimacy they shared, the secrets and dreams, they were everything he had denied me for so long. The next morning, I confronted him. His reaction was immediate and vicious. He called me paranoid and jealous, accusing me of invading his privacy. The fight escalated and he stormed out, leaving me to handle everything alone. At his mother's house, surrounded by relatives, I tried to keep my composure. His sister approached me, suggesting I should stay with him for the kid's sake. "All men cheat," she said dismissively, "but he's a good father and provider." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I was there for him, supporting his family while he betrayed me yet again. Despite the chaos, I kept helping with his mother's care. But the hurt and anger were consuming me. One night, as we were leaving the hospital, he grabbed my arm and tried to kiss me. The touch that once brought comfort now felt suffocating. "We can get through this," he whispered, but I pulled away, unable to hide my disgust. Finally, the day came when his mother was stable enough to be discharged. I packed my bags that night. I couldn't stay in that house a moment longer. I left a note explaining that I needed to focus on my children and myself. Now, as I sit in my new apartment, the kids asleep in their room, I'm filled with a mix of relief and uncertainty. Leaving was the hardest decision I've ever made, but staying would have destroyed me. I'm starting over, rebuilding my life, and creating a stable, loving environment for my children. We deserve a fresh start, free from lies and betrayal.